In this video, we're going to talk about how to hit the golf ball with better contact with long irons. So I've got a 5-iron here today, and I'm going to talk about some basic swing technique strategies, tips that you need to understand when hitting with longer irons. So starting off, to kind of give you a comparative analysis, we want to talk about these short irons. So when we're hitting 9-iron, 8-iron, 7-iron, pitching wedge, these shorter irons that have shorter shafts, so they're not as long, these require a steeper downward angle of attack into the golf ball. So if you think about the swing, when we come down into the golf ball, this angle that we're coming down into the golf ball with, this is called the angle of attack. With our driver, if we think about driver, this is a lot longer shaft on our driver, and we tend to sweep the golf ball on a more upward swing. So we're swinging, hitting that golf ball kind of on an upward swing. We're not chopping down at a downward angle of attack to our driver. Instead, we're more rounded. We're turning around our body more, coming in with a flatter swing plane from the inside, sweeping that ball off the tee as we go up towards the outside, right? So take the same kind of concept with longer irons, but it's still slightly different. We don't have the same shot with irons as we do with our driver. In other words, we don't want to try to swing up on the golf ball with our long irons, but what we can focus on is getting that swing plane a little more rounded around our body, a little flatter. We don't want it to be so steep like we do with our irons. So instead of picking your long irons more straight vertically up into the air, this creates a real steep angle of attack. Think wrap it around your body, more circular. So a simple drill is just to hold the club out in front of us and just kind of turn back and turn forward and turn back and then turn forward and kind of get this feel of how that club moves around the body in more of a circular motion. We're swinging on more of a plane. So when we go to set up to our golf ball here, we want to make sure we're turning back on more of a circular plane here. So we just want to turn back on a flatter swing plane. So we come down at a flatter level. We're not coming down at a super steep angle, hitting down into the golf ball. So that could be one issue. You're not making the best contact with long irons, is you're coming in too steep, more steep than what you should be with a long club, and that's causing you to have all kinds of chunking issues, poor contact issues. Find a way to work on taking that turn back to the inside more on a flatter swing plane. We don't want this shaft more vertical in the air. We want it more on the horizontal side, but not too much either. We don't want to overdo it where we come in, too circular or too flat, because that's going to cause a lot of that flipping of the wrists, releasing the club to the golf ball. It causes a lot of issues like hooking the golf ball. So I tended, when I was working with long irons, I would have a more drastic hook on my longer clubs, like my woods, my long irons, because I was coming in almost too flat at one time, and I actually had to work on steepening my swing plane a little bit. But in this case, you're probably starting off with too much of a downward angle of attack that is causing you to hit behind the ball, chunk the golf ball, or you're trying to do mistake number 2, help that golf ball up by having it too far forward in your stance, trying to swing up on it with tilted shoulders like you do on your driver, and this is also an incorrect method. So let's talk about the setup for our long irons now that we kind of get some basic concepts of the angle of attack and the swing plane being more flat and around our body. So setup for traditional irons is more middle of the stance, slightly forward of middle of the stance, and then our shoulders are level. With our driver, we're more front of the stance, golf ball's off our heel here on the left foot, shoulders are more tilted with the top shoulder being higher than our back shoulder, which we've dropped down. So we're kind of angling our body on a tilted plane, keeping our head and body behind the ball so that we can sweep up on that golf ball and launch it off the tee. But since the golf ball's on the ground here, when we're hitting our long irons, we want to treat it like a normal iron shot where we're coming down into the golf ball on an angle of attack still. We don't want to be tilted trying to hit up on it. We don't want to help that golf ball up and swing up on it with an upward swing. We still want some downward angle of attack into that golf ball. So Ball should be more forward in our stance for our longer irons, so more forward than what we hit normally towards the middle of the stance. So we move the ball up a little bit, but we don't want it all the way up to where it's off our front foot like we do with our drives. So kind of find that happy medium, putting it more forward but not too far forward. Then we want to make sure as we take our address, we've got a nice level plane here on our shoulders, good posture. Head should be kind of right over the golf ball, so our chin here is going to be kind of just slightly behind the ball or slightly right on the ball. Our shaft here is going to be pretty much straight. We don't want our shaft way forward. We don't want our shaft tilted back. We kind of just want a nice straight shaft here that's kind of coming up the inside of my chest here. So if I have my center line going down my sternum, we've got our shaft here pretty much straight with just to the side of that center sternum line. So if you think about my chest pec muscle here, my shaft kind of comes up a straight line, almost in line with that chest muscle, but it's still closer to the center sternum line on my chest. So think about shaft position as well. We don't want that shaft tilted forward or tilted back. When we tilt forward, that's gonna de-loft the face. When we tilt it back too much, that creates issues with chunking behind the golf ball. So nice straight shaft here, ball more forward of stance, shoulders level, body bent over a little bit, and then we're prepared to go ahead and make that turn back. So as we start the takeaway, we start the turn back, we're not gonna be picking that golf club up straight into the air at a steep angle. We want to more turn back, having it come inside on more of a flat swing plane. Getting to the top of our backswing, feeling our body weight shifted a little bit back off this back leg, but not too much. We don't want to shift our weight way back because we're going to have to shift it all back forward, and that can cause problems. So just turn back, feel a little bit of weight on this back leg here. As we start the downswing, we want to drive those hips forward, get our body weight shifting forward as we're dropping the arms down to the inside. So we're coming down from the inside, swinging into that golf ball, kind of on an inside to outside swing path. So more rounded swing means coming more inside to outside. When we take it up more steep and more vertical, we tend to come down from the outside to the inside, and that's why a lot of people slice clubs. So we want to get more around our body, coming from the inside to the outside, swinging more a rounded swing plane around our body. So that's kind of the basic setup, the takeaway, coming down on the downswing. As we get to that golf ball, we want that shaft at the impact position, so we come down. By the time we get back to the impact position, we want our shaft to be pretty straight again. We don't want to be hitting with too much forward shaft lean. That again is de-lofting the face too much. So we want to try to get back to this impact position with pretty much a straight shaft here, but our body weight should already kind of be shifting forward, and that's going to help us get power into that shot. So again, few key takeaways: try to flatten out the swing plane, just go around the body more and work on how that feels, having a less steep swing plane, and you might find you start making better contact. And then also working on our setup, making sure the ball more forward in the stance, shoulders level, not tilting. We want them level. And then we want to make sure that we're setting up so that shaft is pretty much straight at address. And when we come down into the golf ball, that shaft should be pretty straight again at impact. So we'll go ahead and make an example swing here. Move the golf ball, again, more forward of my stance, level shoulders. Feel like weight's kind of 50-50 on my legs right now, and I'm going to turn back on a flatter swing plane. And now I just picked that golf ball up clean, right off the mat, didn't have any chunking. Now if we are chunking, we want to kind of get that sweeping feeling, how to sweep that golf ball off the mat without the effect of like trying to swing upwards on it, without having tilted shoulders. We don't want to do it like we do with our drives. But one drill we can do, and it's one of these things to develop feel. Once you develop feel, you want to get rid of the tee. But for right now, we can start teeing our golf ball up on a tee, and we can practice how it feels to sweep kind of up on that golf ball with our long irons, so we don't get too much of a steep angle where we're chunking down on them. So this will help you learn how to kind of shallow out your swing so you don't come into the golf ball so steep and hit those chunk shots when you start teeing it up. So by teeing it up, we can turn back and we can just kind of get that feel for what it feels like to sweep that ball off the tee with our long irons. Once you get good at kind of sweeping the golf ball and not hitting with such a steep angle of attack, then you can get rid of the tee and you can start practicing how it is to sweep that golf ball off the turf and just take a very shallow divot. We still want to take a divot with our long irons, but it needs to be very shallow. So we come down, just kind of graze the grass after we hit that golf ball. So again, anytime we're hitting iron shots, we want to come down on a descending angle of attack to strike golf ball first, then the club will touch the ground after the golf ball. So golf ball first, hits the golf ball, then the club strikes the ground, makes a divot, and then comes through. So the steeper we come down, the more likely we're gonna dig that club into the ground deeper and deeper, and that causes more chances to hit fat, chunky golf shots. So with we coming in here on a more rounded, shallow swing plane, that allows us to hit golf ball and then barely graze the grass afterwards. So again, we're not coming in super steep. So get a feel for what it's like to kind of sweep that golf ball off the tee and then take that same feeling when you actually start setting that golf ball back on the ground, so we can learn how it feels to just graze the grass. We don't want to take a big divot with our long irons. You're going to find you're going to start striking these long irons, much better contact, much more pure, and we'll get rid of this hitting behind the ball, chunking big divots with our irons, and they don't go very far. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you made sense of it. Again, a couple drills you can do. Just practice setup first, practice taking a slower swing so you can get a feel for what it's like to have a flat swing, and then when you're ready, start setting up, hitting golf shots off a tee, of what it feels like to sweep it off the tee so you don't come in too steep and take chunked shots with your long irons. Then get rid of the tee, do the same drill again, now just learning how to pick it off the turf without taking a very deep divot. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Share this channel with a friend who plays golf. Let's get more people into the game, learning how to play golf. And it'll be more fun for you and your friends if you guys can go out and play better rounds of golf after implementing these different tips in these videos. So I appreciate you being here, giving me some time to watch today's tips and lessons. You can find more about our training programs, our drills, our different practice plans that we have available for golfers to utilize at foygolfacademy.com, which will be linked below in this YouTube video.